Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. The Vienna game, I love it for its aggressive attacks and just being a fun system to explore and learn. In yesterday's game, the Venomous Vienna, we looked at a game where I successfully checkmated an opponent in 8 moves. That game started with the Max Lange variation of the Vienna game, with the opponent making an early queen move to f6 and then responded to knight to d5 with a critical blunder. Today we are going to look at another game with the same system, where the opponent doesn't make as calamitous a blunder, but nonetheless is critically damaged from their early moves. So let's go to the board. All right, so let's go have a look at the review first. And this is a game I did very well, with an accuracy of 92.4%. But the reality is that the accuracy can be high when the opponent makes some bad moves, and the best move is fairly obvious. I didn't make any blunders, and apparently no inaccuracies and mistakes, which is a fairly extraordinary place to be. Let's go straight to the analysis now. Rightio. So this is the Vienna. So e4, e5, knight c3. The opponent responds with knight to c6. And the best move here is developing the bishop to c4. The opponent sort of responds in a symmetric way. And whenever the opponent does this, there is an immediate opportunity to attack this pawn on the G file, given that it is now no longer protected by the bishop with a queen move to G4, which is what I did. So queen to G4, and the opponent responds by queen to f6, ostensibly defending that pawn. And also there is this potential scary looking move, which potentially looks like that they're attacking my weak f pawn, and maybe there's checkmate possibilities. That's what it looks like. However, in this position, the move knight to d5, which is what we showed yesterday in the Venomous Vienna video, with the fork to the the fork to that square, the pawn on c7 and the queen on f6 is a particularly powerful move. So I make that move, and in the actual game, what the opponent does is that they decide that they wanted to trade queens, that perhaps they lost their nerve about attacking my pawn, and made the move queen to g6, offering a trade. And as you can see, that is a serious blunder on the opponent's part, because it doesn't address the impending problem with the attack on the rook with check. However, what if the opponent didn't make that move? So let's say the opponent made the best move, which is in fact queen takes pawn on f2. Now, the interesting thing here is, even when the opponent does this, which is the best move, they are nonetheless still behind. They are not ahead. And the thing here is that even though this looks like a potential devastating move, you can actually just move the king out of the way. And in this position, the opponent actually has some serious problems. And if you look at the best line for the best line for black after this move is the highly unintuitive move king to f8, and that moves a king out of this particular attack here with the knight, and it also allows the king to defend the g7 square. However, I would argue that doesn't look like a very natural move, and I think a more natural looking move is the advance of the d pawn with a discovered attack on the queen, and that's what I've sort of faced before. So that looks like a potential real problem for the queen. But this actually is not a particular issue. As you can see, you can then just take that pawn, and then black is in some serious trouble here. And as you can see, practically white is winning in this position. Now, even if black makes the right move, which is king to f8, this queen has some serious problems because it is close to being trapped. It cannot retreat to this square. It cannot retreat to all these squares, which as is protected by the queen. It cannot retreat to that square, which is protected by the knight. It cannot retreat to this square, which is again protected by the queen, protected by the queen. It cannot come here. That looks like it's checkmate, but it's actually protected by the bishop. It cannot go to these two squares, as it's protected by the king. It cannot go there as it's protected by the pawn. So this queen is close to being trapped. And the move here for white is knight to f3, attack on the queen, and the queen, if they wish to, retreat to a safe square, will have to retreat here. But even then, it's close to trapped. A pawn move here, and then the next pawn, the queen is in serious trouble. So this whole line with the queen move to f6, then to take the f pawn, leads to only badness for black. Now let's go back to the actual game. So here, I am attacking the queen. And the opponent in this game decided to trade queens, and I was happy to oblige with the trade of queens. The opponent naturally captures my queen, and then the knight captures the pawn on c7 and then captures the rook. Now, for the rest of the game, given that I am now substantially up on material, the real goal of the game is to try to force trades of pieces, to encourage trades of pieces to get to a very advantageous endgame. And that's what I do. The opponent retreats their bishop to prevent the escape of the knight. That's fine. That knight can just camp out there for a while. I decide to just develop some of my pieces. I decide to move that piece to block the ability of their knight to advance forward. They develop their other knight. That's fine. Here, again, really, I'm just trying to encourage trades of pieces. The opponent decides to not oblige, but I am so ahead of material, I really don't mind. I decide to just advance the pawn. Captures, again, happy to trade pieces, develop my other knight, just some general moves, castles. Here, I think they're trying to potentially launch an attack on that knight, but that bishop is blocking that. I move my bishop forward to connect the rooks. There we go. They're trying to make way for the bishop to move out of the way, and here I attack the opponent's knight. They move there, but again, I am happy to trade. So that is what I want to do. And here, with the bishop moving out of the way, that gives me an opportunity to move my knight out of the corner square. Opponent moves their bishop out of the way. Again, I am happy for that trade. I want to trade pieces. There we go. And now this bishop is actually trapped, as we can see. So threatening there, forced to go back, and then this pawn advances, and then the bishop has really no room to move. Again, happy to trade. And at this point, I have two rooks. Opponent has one, and it's really a matter of just converting this to a win. Opponent wants to capture that pawn. No, go ahead, be my guest. Check. And here there is a potential opportunity to for checkmate if the opponent doesn't move either the king or this pawn. Then the next move with rook there, the king is trapped behind their own pawns. But the opponent sees that, which is fine. Now, the thing I need to be careful of is it's never too late. It's never too late to lose. Never too late to blunder, snatch, defeat out of the jaws of victory. So I do have to be very careful that I don't end up having ending up having a checkmate from the back rank. So I need to be very careful that the opponent's rook doesn't get to the back rank. Move my rook. Try to collect some of the pawns. The opponent makes that move. That's fine. Now the opponent's best move clearly is rook to that position, but they don't see it. They capture with the pawn, which I don't think was a good move. So I block off that pawn, and also means now that rook cannot go to this square. And again, I am perfectly happy to trade rooks because that will leave me with one rook and with the opponent with no pieces other than pawns. I try to move the other rook, potentially again, capturing some pawns. The opponent moves their king out of the way. Can capture a pawn. So here, again, need to be very careful of back rank mate. But obviously, the best move is to move the rook back here, potentially trading rooks. Want to trade rooks. The opponent doesn't oblige, which is fine. Move this rook out of the way. Now, their king and the rook is lined up, so a potential pin, and then it'll be a forced capture of the rook. The opponent again makes a mistake, trying to go for a back rank mate, but again, that doesn't work. That rook is now pinned. They're either forced to capture, but either way, that rook is going to die. So they decide to move the king out of the way, but it really doesn't matter. Capture, capture, and here the opponent resigns. I have one rook, I have pawns. This is a very easy game to win, and the opponent resigns, which is fine. One of the learnings that I got from analyzing these games is for black, the early move Queen f6 to set up a natural looking and seemingly powerful attack against white's weak f-pawn doesn't actually work. The advantage is almost entirely for white. It's one of the aspects that makes the Vienna so venomous, so potentially tricky for black if they want to respond aggressively. Thanks for watching.